Esther, Chapter 1. Queen Vashti is dethroned. King Ahasuerus of Persia ruled over 127 provinces, stretching from India to Ethiopia. In the 3rd year of his reign, he threw a grand banquet that lasted 180 days to flaunt his power and wealth. On the last day of the banquet, King Ahasuerus, drunk, wanted to show off Queen Vashti's beauty to everyone. However, Queen Vashti steadfastly refused his command. The king was furious and consulted his advisors about the matter. He was concerned that Queen Vashti's disobedience would negatively impact the entire kingdom. Finally, he decided to dethrone Queen Vashti. The king issued a decree stating, "Husbands must govern their households well, and wives must obey their husbands." Queen Vashti's dethronement became a crucial stepping stone for Esther's subsequent rise to queen. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. Esther, Chapter 2. Esther becomes queen. King Ahasuerus of Persia decided to choose a new queen after deposing Queen Vashti. So, he ordered a gathering of beautiful young women from all over his kingdom. Mordecai, who lived in Shushan, heard of this. He decided to include his beautiful cousin, Esther, in the process of selecting a new queen. Following Mordecai's advice, Esther entered the palace, hiding her ethnicity and lineage. Esther's striking beauty and wisdom captivated the hearts of the courtiers. The king was so captivated by Esther that he chose her as his queen. King Ahasuerus celebrated the occasion with a grand banquet for his entire kingdom. Meanwhile, Mordecai, as he wandered through the palace, discovered a plot by 2 eunuchs to assassinate the king. He reported this to Queen Esther. Esther immediately reported the plot to the king. The traitors, whose actions were confirmed through investigation, were executed. All these exploits were recorded in detail in the royal annals before the king. Provided by the Bible History School. Esther, Chapter 3. Haman seeks to destroy the Jewish people. King Ahasuerus promoted Haman and placed him above all his officials. All the officials knelt before Haman, but Mordecai, being a Jew, refused. Haman was furious and resolved to destroy not only Mordecai but all the Jews. Haman went to the king and pleaded with him that the Jews should be destroyed because they did not obey the king's laws. And he offered to pay the king 10,000 talents of silver. The king gave Haman a signet ring and told him to do whatever he wanted with the Jews and the silver. Haman wrote a decree and sent it throughout the provinces. He ordered that on the 13th day of the month of Adar, all the Jews be executed and their property confiscated. The king and Haman rejoiced, but the city of Susa was in chaos. Haman was a descendant of the Amalekites, Israel's enemies. Mordecai did not hide his Jewishness. Provided by the Bible History School. Esther, Chapter 4. Esther promises to save her people. Haman's plot threatened the extermination of the Jews. Mordecai, deeply grieved, told Esther this news. But Queen Esther hesitated to approach the king. It had already been 30 days since she had been to the king. For a queen to appear before the king without his summons could mean death. Mordecai earnestly persuaded Esther, who was in despair. "If you remain silent now, you and your family will perish. Who knows whether you have been made queen for this very time, for this very crisis?" Esther finally made up her mind. She proclaimed a fast for the Jews, and after fasting herself, she mustered up the courage to approach the king. Esther demonstrated her unwavering resolve to risk everything to save her people. In a life-or-death situation, she vowed, "If I have to die, I will die." Provided by the Bible History School. Esther, Chapter 5. Haman's Plot. Queen Esther of King Ahasuerus had been hiding her Jewishness. However, at Mordecai's urging, she resolved to go to the king, risking her life to save her people. After 3 days of fasting and prayer, Esther finally appeared before the king. Inviting the king and Haman to a banquet, she had prepared with great care. Haman was delighted by the queen's special hospitality. However, he was furious when Mordecai refused to pay him respect at the palace gate. Returning home, Haman boasted of his immense power to his wife and friends. He only expressed his dissatisfaction because of Mordecai. Haman's wife urged him to erect a tall gallows on which to hang Mordecai. Haman immediately took action and ordered the erection of a gallows 23 meters high. Provided by the Bible History School. Esther, Chapter 6. The king honors Mordecai. One night, unable to sleep, King Ahasuerus had the chronicles of his reign read to him. In the chronicles, he discovered that Mordecai had thwarted a plot to assassinate him. Yet, he learned that he had received no reward. Haman came to the king to ask permission to execute Mordecai. When the king questioned his officials, Haman mistakenly assumed he was the one to be honored. Haman advised the king to dress the man in royal attire. And he suggested that he ride the king's horse and ride through the streets of the city to show his respect. The king ordered Haman to do the same to Mordecai. Haman dressed Mordecai in royal robes and rode him on horseback, praising him. Shame-stricken, Haman returned home in despair. Haman's wife and friends prophesied that Haman would not be able to defeat Mordecai as he was Jewish. Provided by the Bible History School. Esther, Chapter 7. The Fall of Haman. Queen Esther revealed her Jewishness to the king at a banquet. She then exposed Haman's plot to exterminate the Jews. King Ahasuerus was furious. Esther accused Haman of being a villain, and the king was furious. While the king was away, Haman prostrated himself before Esther to beg for her forgiveness. The king returned, misinterpreting this, and denounced Haman even more fiercely. At this time, Harbona revealed that Haman had made a gallows to hang Mordecai. King Ahasuerus immediately ordered Haman to be hanged on the gallows. In the end, Haman was hanged on the gallows he had made. This moment clearly reveals Esther's courage and wisdom, as well as Haman's arrogance. Provided by the Bible History School. Esther, Chapter 8. A way of life opens for the Jews. Haman's death marked the end of his wicked ways. In his stead, Mordecai received the king's signet ring and assumed power. At Esther's request, a new decree protecting the Jews was issued. The Jews, freed from the brink of destruction, rejoiced greatly. The city of Susa was filled with joy and feasting, and the Jews celebrated their victory. The news spread throughout Persia, and the Jews rejoiced and rejoiced. This led even other nations to fear the Jews. Furthermore, some even began to call themselves Jews. The courage of Esther and Mordecai opened a new future for the Jewish people. Provided by the Bible History School. Esther, Chapter 9. The Jews destroy their enemies. On the 13th of Adar, the plan to exterminate the Jews actually became a day of vengeance for the Jews. In each region, the Jews attacked those who had attempted to harm them. In Susa alone, they killed 500 people, and Haman's 10 sons were hanged. At Esther's request, they attacked for another day, killing an additional 300. In each province, 75,000 people were killed, but the Jews did not touch the enemy's property. To commemorate this victory, Mordecai decreed that the 14th and 15th of Adar be observed as the Feast of Purim. Purim became a day of feasting, gift-giving, and charity for the poor. Esther and Mordecai confirmed the Feast of Purim in their second letter. By observing Purim, they emphasized the unity and joy of the Jewish community. Purim commemorates the Jewish people's victory over the threat of national annihilation. It is a day to remember God's power, transforming sorrow into joy. Provided by the Bible History School. Esther, Chapter 10. This concludes the series on the Pentateuch and the historical books. Chapter 10, the last chapter of the book of Esther, is from verses 1 to 3. This concludes the historical book of the Old Testament. For over a year, Bible History School has been producing short videos titled Bible a Day, which are published daily. We have completed the Pentateuch beginning with Genesis chapter 1 and the historical books from Joshua to Esther. The prophetic books which continue to appear require interpretation. In the case of historical books, reading a summary makes it easier to get the overall picture. However, in the case of prophetic books, reading a summary can actually make it more difficult to understand the overall meaning of the text. Therefore, we will end our daily short videos of one chapter of the Bible here. I encourage you to read the Bible, including the prophetic books, at least one chapter a day. Thank you very much for subscribing to Bible a Day. Furthermore, Bible History School is serializing Revelation and World History to great acclaim. Please subscribe, and thank you. Provided by the Bible History School.